Welcome guys, this is my channel Coding with Dan, and today we're gonna make a game in React, which is a JavaScript framework. The game is called SpeedTyper, and I already have this finished version up here, and I run npm start, which starts up the project, and we have it open in the browser, so we're gonna take a fast look at it first. Here we have the game, it's called SpeedTyper. So first off, we have this nice looking landing page with this welcome screen, and then we have this button, click to play. So we're gonna click, and it leads us to the second page with this smooth transition, and here we have the game. So basically we have a title here, we have a text to type, and here we have the area which is where we're gonna type the text. Then we have the time ticking down here, and we have a reset button. And at the bottom of the page we have the score. So basically what you're gonna do here is to type as many words as you can in 60 seconds. So we're gonna start here, and you see the time starts once I start typing. And it's kind of hard words in this game. You could change it up if you want. We're gonna go through that later. So basically you're gonna get points depending on how many words you type in during those 60 seconds, and after that there's gonna be a game over screen which shows how many words you have completed. You also gonna see that this border here changed depending on if you type in the right word or if you type in the wrong word. So I'm gonna fast forward with the video a bit, and we're gonna see the game over screen. So here we have the game over screen, which means that the game is over, and we have a big nice play again button here, which you can click to get back to the game again, like this. So that's it, basically. We are gonna get started. So we are gonna use Visual Studio Code to build this game. Here, of course, if you are familiar, if you're used to any other code editor that you prefer more, like Atom or Sublime Text or whatever, please go ahead and text in your code code editor. So guys, let's get going. I'm here on my desktop, and we are gonna make a folder right here. You can of course make it somewhere else if you have some certain path where you're storing all your files, but I'm gonna make a folder here called SpeedTyper. And as I said before, I'm using Visual Studio Code. I am going to open this folder by right clicking on it, and then I'm gonna open it with Visual Studio Code. So once you're in the project, we are gonna initiate a React project, and if you haven't done that before, it's actually quite easy. All you have to do is to run npx create React app, and then the name of the application, which is gonna be SpeedTyper. So now we initialize the project. We're gonna have to wait here for a second, so I'm gonna fast forward the video for that. So perfect, we are up and running, but before we start doing anything in this new project, I'm just gonna want to have a fast look at our already finished version, which comes in here. So here is the finished version. So I just want to look at the folder structure first. We have this assets folder where we just have this main image which you saw on the landing screen. Then we have a components folder, and in there we have a pages folder where we have the game page, and we also have the landing page. Then we have some UI here, which I haven't used, so I don't know why I have it here, but it's nice to have. Then we have some utilities here, and in the utilities we just have a function where we fetch the data from a Heroku API that I found, and it's basically all the words. And then we have some transitions here. It's the transition between the pages. We're gonna go through how I did that later on in the video. So we have the app here, which basically contains all the content in this application. I also have this app CSS file where I set some basic general resets, and I also set this font family that you can see that I imported here. We're gonna check that out later, how I found this font family. So we're gonna remove this and we're gonna check out our new project. So let's get started, guys. I have this new project open here, which I made in Create React app earlier. I also have the picture here from the main background saved on my desktop. You will find all of these in my GitHub repository, so you simply click on the link below to my GitHub, and then you can copy the pictures from there. What we're gonna start with is just to remove some unnecessary stuff first. So we're gonna remove this service worker. We can take away this setup tests, and we don't need this logo either, actually. So we have to clear this import a service worker from here. We can clear this also, remove it. Then we don't need index.css actually, so we are gonna remove that also. We don't need it. And just to get started, we are gonna open up the app with npm start, and as you can see here, I actually get an error, and the reason for that is because I haven't cd'd into the directory of the application. So we have to do that first before we run npm start. And there is something running already in port 3000, so we still want to open our application, so we're going to click yes. And this is basically the previous application that we have here. I can move it away to my screen. Okay, so we get module not found, index.css in the source. So we're gonna click save here. Still struggling a bit. Module not found, current results logo.svg. Okay. We go into the app, and then we have to remove this logo.svg, and we'll see. Logo is not defined. Let me see. Yeah, it's here. We need to, of course, remove everything in here because we're not gonna need it. And now it should work all right. Yes, so we don't see anything yet because we don't have anything yet, obviously. I'm just gonna wrap this thing here in some brackets, and then we're gonna output just to see something. Here we're going to output speed typer, and now we should see it on the main screen. Yes, we have it here. So what I want to do now is that I want to open this app.css, so we're going to remove all the styles from here, basically. And to start with, we are gonna put some basic styles first. So first of all, I like to type some comments, so we're gonna have a general reset here. And if you guys just like watching, it's okay, but I encourage you to code along and actually make this game together with me, because I think that you'll learn most if you actually do it by yourself. So first off, we're gonna target everything, but by this, I think it's called asterisk. I'm not sure, 100% sure. We're gonna target everything, and then we're gonna set the margin to 0. We're gonna set the padding to 0, and we're gonna set the box sizing to border box. So basically, we're resetting some styles on the page. We're setting the margin to be 0 by default, the padding to be 0 by default, and then the box sizing we want to be border box. So we're gonna do also on the body. We're gonna have a font family, and this font family is gonna be called Black Han Sans, and we have a backup style called sans serif. Then we have some basic letter spacing that we're gonna have also surrounding our application, basically, and it's gonna be 0.2 rem, which is a relative measure unit. So, of course, to get use of this Black and Sans, because if we go back now, we don't really have any use of it yet, we have to import it. So I have the link over here. I'm gonna copy paste it in, but I'm also gonna show you how I got these links. Basically, it's taken from Google Fonts. So I'm gonna go here and head over to Google Fonts. Now you see the change here, so we're gonna go to Google Fonts. And when you are on Google Fonts, I wanted to search for it, and we're gonna check what the name was exactly. We have this Black Hand Sans, right? So we're gonna go back here and we're gonna type Black Hands, and here we have it. Okay, so we're gonna click on this one. This is the one that we want to use. We take select style, then we click on embed, and then you can choose the link here. This is if you want to copy it into your HTML page and place it there, basically around where you usually place your style.css link. But I'm gonna take import, and you're gonna copy this. You're gonna copy this, but don't copy the styles here, okay? So you're gonna copy in the import here, and you're gonna go back to your document. And now I already have it imported here, but you're gonna basically just copy it in, and you see it's still gonna work. Okay, so that's Google Fonts, an amazing website if you wanna easily get access to some fonts. So let's get going, guys. What we're gonna do now is to basically set the folder structure for our game here. So we're gonna head into source, and we're gonna take a new folder here. You can also create a new folder up here. And this one is going to be called components, and this is something you're basically always going to see when you are making React projects. So inside this components folder, we're going to have another folder for our pages, the game page and for the landing page. And inside of this one, we're soon going to create 2 pages, but we'll wait a little for now. And we're also going to create another folder inside the components, which is going to be called utils. It's basically gonna be a few functions that we're gonna import into our game later. So now we have these 2. I also want to create another folder here inside my source now, which is called assets, and it's basically gonna be for pictures, for videos and such. But in our case, it's just gonna be this main background picture that you saw on the landing page. So we're gonna create another folder in here called images, and then inside here, I'm gonna minimize this for just a second, and we are gonna take this main background and we're gonna put it inside here. And you will find this, as I said, on my GitHub repository. Then you take the picture and paste it into your project. So perfect. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller also, so that we see more of the screen. We can close some of these because we don't need them. Also this app testing.js we don't need actually, so I'm gonna remove that one. Index.js, okay, everything else looks okay. We're just gonna test so that our project is actually up and running. So you can, if you haven't started it, you can click Ctrl+C, and then you click on, then you type npm start again to start it again. And we type yes here, even if we have it open, and we're gonna bring it in here. So it seems to be working. Obviously we don't see anything because we haven't written anything yet. So what we're gonna do now is to, I'm gonna close this down, we made 2. What we're gonna do now is to create these 2 pages that we had. And first of all, we're gonna create a folder called game page, which is simply the page for the game. We're gonna create a file called gamepage.js. Okay, so we're gonna create another file here called gamepage.stylespoken.scss. I'm simply using Sass here. So what we have to do there, I actually already no, I haven't installed the dependencies, so that's absolutely perfect for us being able to use this SCSS. I'm just gonna rename this one so we have one S here. For this to be able to work, we need to install the dependency simply. For that, we're gonna head over here to node Sass. We already saw it here. npm node Sass. This is the package we're gonna use, and for it to work, we need to run npm install node Sass. To not close my project, I'm actually going to open another terminal here. I'm using git bash. You're going to cd in here to the speed typer again. to make sure to do that. And then we're gonna run npm installed node sas. And there it seems like we are up and running. So inside our game page, we're gonna wait with the landing page for now. We're gonna make that after we've made a game page. So what we're gonna do now is to create a functional component here. I'm only gonna use functional components since React hooks, and this is kind of what everyone are using right now. So I'm gonna use a shortcut here to create a functional component fast. I'm using RACFE, and then I'm gonna click enter, and I'm gonna have this up and running already. So that's perfect. And inside here we're just gonna type, do an h1, and then we're gonna write speed typer like this. Perfect. So now we head back to the main page. Let us see where we have it. I'm gonna close some stuff down here. Here we have it. Obviously we don't see anything yet because we haven't imported our game page component into our app, so we have to head back to app.js, and we're gonna set some brackets around here, and then we're gonna go down, and inside here we're gonna display the game page like this. And for it to work, obviously we need to import game page from, and it should be one dot, and then we go into components, we go into pages, and we go into game page, and then we pick the file game page like this. And now we should be able to see the h1. Why are we not seeing the h1? We have imported it. We have imported from game page. Let us look on game page. We have the h1 there on game page. It seems we try to restart the application and see if this is what's struggling for us. I'm gonna type yes. Let us see if we get this. Yes, perfect. Absolutely perfect. So we have this speed typer, as you can see here, with this nice new font. So we have connection with the game page, simply. So that's perfect. Inside our game page, we also, just to make it work already, we're gonna get connection to this styling sheet, simply. So we're gonna do like this, and we're gonna take the game page style, and just to see that we have connection, I'm gonna go into this game page style. So we're gonna type h1, and we're gonna do like this, and we're gonna take font size, or shit, we're gonna take font size, and we're gonna set like 5 rem, something really big, so that we see that the connection is working. And we see that it's working perfectly right here. So that's good for us. So we can remove this one. And we can close down app.js for now, because we're not gonna use it right now. You can also close index.js. So now we're gonna make the boilerplate here for our functional component, the game page, which contains our game simply. So at the top of it, we want to place an h2 here, and this h2 is going to have a class name, and it's going to be game title, like so. And inside here we're going to type speed typer, and then Control S to save the game. Okay, thereafter we're going to have a container for our game, and you can click dot here and then type game container, and then click enter. Then inside there we're gonna have another div, and it's gonna be have a class that is text to type, like this. And inside text to type we're gonna have an h3 which says text to type. And basically this is, as you saw on the finished version, this is where we are here. Text to type, and then we have this down below that we are gonna work with in a while. But we're gonna wait with that word for the moment. We're not gonna output it yet. We're gonna have this text to type here only, and if we go back to our page for a second, we see that we have these two running up right here. So that's perfect. Below this text to type container, we're going to have our next container, which is going to be the input container, which is basically going to contain the input where you're going to input text. And inside here, we're going to have an input with the class name of text area input, like this. And the type should be text, and the class name should be text area input. We're going to have some more values here for in a second, but we're going to leave it like this for now. So that's perfect. Then we got that up and running, and beneath this we're going to have our next section, so to say. And this is going to be called dot timer button container. And it's basically gonna contain a button and the timer for our game. So that's it for that. Then inside here we're gonna have a div, which is gonna be called timer. And inside here we're gonna have a paragraph. And for now we're just gonna hard code it in like this. Later on that's not gonna be hard coded. And below we're also gonna have a button with the class name of, like this, button with the class name of start button. And the start button is gonna have a title called reset game, simply. And at the bottom of the page beneath, we're also gonna have this score display. So we're gonna place it here, we're gonna do a div, and we're gonna give it score display, like this. We're gonna have another paragraph, and we're gonna say score, and for now we're gonna hard type it in and say 0. So if we head back to the page, we have this speed typer, we have this text to type, we have this input, we have the text here with some ugly strings around, we have the reset game button, and we have the score. So we're gonna start off with styling the game to take one thing at a time, and thereafter we're gonna start with the functionality simply. So what we're gonna do now is to we have to check this one out also. Let us see. We have this h2 here with, we have this h2 here and around. Yeah, we're later gonna add a. We're gonna do like this now. Actually, already we're gonna give this a class name and set it to home page wrapper. Okay, and make sure, yeah, it's already there at the bottom. So to make this easy, we're gonna put this down a little bit, remove it. We're gonna place this one over here to see it, and we're gonna have this at the top. We are gonna have this homepage wrapper, so we're gonna write like this. And with CSS with SAS, you can wrap these styles inside each other, and it gives even more specificity, which is why it's very good to use. So we're gonna give this a height of 100 viewport height, which basically gonna take up the entire screen. We're gonna have I'm gonna copy some styles here. We're gonna have this background, which is a radial gradient. You won't be able to see it yet. And also here you will have a display flex here to simply center your items. You're gonna have flex direction of column. And we're gonna justify content center. We're gonna centralize it on the screen alongside with align items center. And then we're also gonna have a position relative, because our score is gonna be relative to the game page position. So that's why we're setting position relative here. And to start with, we don't see anything yet here. So it seems like something is off. Let's see if we have connection with our game page styles.css. Seems like we have imported it. We have targeted the home wrapper. Very sorry. should be home page wrapper. And then we see here in the background, I can see it already here, that we have this nice new color. It's a radial gradient, goes from the center here out to the sides, as you can see. And we have centered the content simply. So perfect. Next thing that we are gonna do is that we are gonna select the game title. So we're gonna go in here and we're gonna take the game title like this. We are gonna give it some styles, and it's gonna have a font size of 4 rem. It's gonna be really big. We're gonna have flex 1. It's basically flex. And we're gonna divide our components down based on flex, and based on how high number you give them, that determines how much space they're gonna take compared to the other elements. You're gonna see it soon how it works. We're also gonna have display flex on this component, and we're gonna justify the content center again, and we're gonna align item center again. Then we're gonna have some nice linear gradient here, and I'm gonna copy these styles in. You can see them here. I'm gonna let you see it for a while, so you can pause here and write these styles in. I'm basically gonna give some styling to the text. So if we go back to the document here, you see that we have this nice looking purplish color here on our heading. So that was it for the game title. We are still inside the home wrapper page, so this is what I was talking about with the specificity. We're gonna do the game container now, which simply contains the game. We're gonna have a background color here first of white. We're gonna overwrite the background color on some of the components later. We're gonna give this a flex of 3, so it's gonna take up more space than our game title on the entire page. We're gonna have display flex again. On this one, we're gonna have the flex direction set to column, and we are gonna have justify content center, align item center, and then we're gonna give this a width of 60%, which is basically how much size of the screen it's gonna take up width-wise. And we're also gonna have a max width, which is for later, if you wanna do your game responsive, of 47.5 rem. And then we're gonna have a border radius of 2 rem. Border radius of 2 rem. Margin bottom of 5 rem. It's 5 rem. It's to the bottom of the screen. Then we're gonna have some box shadow here, which I'm gonna copy paste in here. Seems like my got stuck here for a second. Let us wait for it to unstuck. So here we have the styles. I'm gonna copy paste them in, and you can pause the video here to write them in. It's basically some box shadow. So that was the game container. We go back to the page and we have a look. We see that we have this nice looking game container around here, and if we compare to our game, our finished version, we see it's this one around. So that's good. Then we go and style this next component simply, which is the text to type, and it's inside the game container. So we're gonna be even more specific and write the styles in here. We're gonna have flex 2 on this one, and then we're gonna have display flex again. Fantastic tool to be able to position your items. We're gonna have justify content center, and we're gonna have align item center. And then we are gonna have the flex direction set to column, and we are gonna change the color here of the background. So once again, you can pause the video and write this in. We have this nice yellowish color, and this, yeah, it's hard to say, it's a bit of a goldish yellowish, I don't know, color at least for the game. And then this is gonna take up 100% of the width, and we want also some border radius here, which I'm gonna copy in, and it's some border radius border top radius and some border left radius. You could also do some overflow hidden so that it's enough with the border radius that we placed on this component up here. But I did like this this time. Also inside text to type we have this H3, and inside H3 we're gonna place a font size of 1.6 rem. We're gonna have a margin bottom of 0.5 rem. We're gonna have a color of white. And then we're also gonna have a paragraph inside the text type, and this is basically gonna output our it's gonna output our the word that we're gonna type simply. So I'm gonna copy this color in. It's a nice looking lime green color, and we're gonna set the font weight to bold. We are gonna have another font family here, and the reason for that is because it's important that the person that is typing can see see what's written clearly. And I was testing with the first font first, but I think that it was really hard to see the difference between an L and an I, and therefore I changed to this Georgia family. We're gonna set the font size to 1.2 rem. Okay, let's take a look now. We go back to our game, and we have this nice looking text to type here yet. You're soon gonna see a difference here because we are gonna set styles on these things below, but we have this text to type. As you see, we don't have any word yet because we haven't typed in any word. But if we go back to the game page here, and we go inside text to type, and then we just make a paragraph and say hello. We are going to see this green color here. Perfect. We can have it there for now, just to know how it's supposed to be. So perfect. So that's basically it for that component. Let us see if we have anything else. Game container, text type. Perfect. So now we're gonna head on forwards to the input container, and this one we are gonna create here. We're gonna have the input container, and this is basically where the user is gonna write the text. So this one is gonna be a bit bigger, take up more space, so we're gonna place flex 4 on it. We're gonna give it a width of 100%. We're gonna give it a height of 25%. And then inside this we're gonna have the text input area, text area input, sorry, like this. And inside here we're also gonna have a width of 100%. We're gonna have a height of 100%. We're gonna have a border, which we set to none initially. We're gonna have a border top, 1 pixel solid, and with this nice grayish color, and we can copy paste this down, and you can select it like this, and then take Shift and Alt and click down, and we're gonna copy it again, and we're gonna change this to bottom instead, like this. We're gonna set the outline to none. We don't want to have that. We're gonna align the text to the center so that the user is gonna be able to write in the center of the component. Then we are gonna set the font size to 2 rem, and we're gonna set some transition here. And the reason why we're setting this transition, which I'm copying in now, is because later when the user is writing, we're gonna have a border appearing, and we want the transition to be smooth simply. So next thing we have is the timer button container, and we need to have a dot here, of course. And we're gonna set the width to 100%. We're gonna set flex 1 here. We're gonna set display flex again, this one, and then we're gonna select the timer here, and we're gonna set flex 2, so it's gonna take up twice as much space as the button simply. You're gonna see it soon. So we're gonna have display flex on this one. We're gonna do justify content center. we're gonna have align items center. We're gonna do a background here, which I'm gonna copy again. It's the same background color from up above. I think I mixed, no, I didn't mix anything with the values, right? No, it's exactly the same. So we're gonna take this color again, and then we're gonna have a border bottom left. And again, you could have set overflow hidden on this game container instead, and then we wouldn't have to set all these individual borders. But I did it like this time, but so you know, you don't have to do it. We want to set the color here to white, and then we have a paragraph in here also, and this paragraph is going to have a font size of 2 rem. Just for now, we're gonna head and just look how it looks like. So you see it's starting to look pretty similar. We have these two weird components here that are not working yet, but we're gonna take care of that right now. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do the start button now, simply. This one is gonna have flex 1, so it's gonna take up a little bit less space than the timer. We're gonna place border bottom right and give it a radius of 2 rem. We are gonna give this the font family of Black Hand Sans, because the button didn't automatically inherit this font family. Then we're gonna set the outline to none. We're gonna set the border to none. We're gonna set the cursor of pointer, and then we're gonna give another background here, which I'm gonna copy in. So you can just pause the video and write it. Then we're gonna have a color of white here also, and we're gonna have a font weight of bold, a font size of 1.2 rem. And we're gonna have a letter spacing here of 0.2 rem. So like this. Spacing 0.2 rem. So the last thing that we have to fix now is simply the score display. And you know that I told you earlier that this position relative up here, we set that because we wanted to place the score display, and I'm gonna show you. The score display is this one. We're gonna want to place that relatively. We're gonna want to place it relatively to the entire screen here. So what we are gonna do is that we're gonna go down here. We're gonna take score display, and we're gonna set a position absolute, and then we're gonna give it a font size of 1.8 rem. And we're gonna set bottom 0, left 50%. We're gonna do transform and then translate. We're gonna do minus 50% and minus 50%. And then we're gonna want to give it a color of white also. So let's head back to the page, and it looks pretty similar, right? This is the game as it looked, and we compared to this was an old, sorry. We compared it to the finished version that we have here, and it looks pretty similar. We have these little markups here just that we're gonna remove later on. So that's it for the styling, guys, for this page, simply. So we are happy with that. So we can close down this game page styles, and we're gonna head over to the game page component. So in this game page component, we are going to need to be able to handle some states. So we're gonna go up here and import use state from React. We're also gonna use effect later, and we're gonna use ref. So it's 3 hooks that I want you to import right now, and we're gonna use them later. So what we are gonna start with now is to so we're gonna first of all make a constant here, and we're gonna set something here to equal use state, and it's gonna be empty first. And what we want to set here is simply the word, and then we want to have set word also. So this is the word that's going to be displayed for the user to type in simply. So what we want to do here is to display it on the screen. For now, we're just gonna, instead of having this hard-coded hello here, we're gonna display a word here simply, like so. So if we head back to the page, it's empty right now, but if I give any value here, let's say hello again, we will be able to see hello here again. So we got that up and running for now. So the next thing that we're gonna do is to have another state, some states that we're gonna have use for later. We're gonna have a loading, which initially is gonna be false, and we're gonna have a set loading, and we're gonna set it to use state, and initially it's gonna be false, like this. And we're gonna take care of the input also. So what we want to do here is to make another const. We're gonna set the input and the set input, and this is basically, you can name these whatever you want, but this is the convention that you say set, and then we take use state, we set use state input, and then we have set input, and first it's gonna be an empty string here, like this. We're also gonna have the score. So we're gonna have to be able to set the score like this. So it's gonna be a couple of state storings here that we have to do. We will have a number of generated words also, but we can save that for later. We save it like this for now. We go down here. We need to use the input now. So we're gonna head down here, and on our input here, so we're gonna first have a value here, which is gonna be equal to the value that we have on the input. Sorry, it should be input here and not value. Then we are gonna have a placeholder here also that we need to create. So we're gonna make a placeholder and set that equal to placeholder. So we have to head back up here, and then we're gonna have a placeholder here also. So we need another const, and this one is gonna be called placeholder, and then we're gonna have set placeholder. And the reason why we are using this one is because once a word is removed, once you have written and you match the word that you're supposed to write, your input is going to disappear, and then we don't want the placeholder to be shown, so we need to remove it later. So that's why we're using this one. So we're going to have some text here, which is start typing to start the game, like so. Then below that we also gonna have we're gonna wait with the other ones for now. So what we wanna do now is that we need to create some functions that are connected to this input simply. So on this input we're gonna listen to on change, and then we're gonna run something called input handler, and that's a function that we're gonna, so that's something that we're gonna create up here, as I said. So it's const input handler, and it's gonna take in an event, and we are gonna set input, the input that we store, equal to the event target value, and then we stop there for now, and we just make a console log and write God here, and we check if we are actually reaching here. So let me see, we're in here, and we open the DevTools with Control Shift I, and then we go here and we take the console and we start writing, and you see that we are getting inside the function. So that's perfect, it's working all fine. Yeah, simply we need to use the use effect now to generate the first word simply. So what we're gonna do is to set the use effect here, and we are gonna make the function, and this is gonna run. This function is only gonna run when the page is loaded. So we give an empty empty array here of dependencies, so the use effect is not listening for any dependencies, which means that it's not running unless the page is loaded the first time. If you want the use effect to listen to changes, you need to put them in here. So for example, I could put input here, and it's going to run each time the input changes, which basically is going to be all the time when the user is typing, and we don't want that. So what we want to do in here is that we're gonna set something called set loading to true, and for that we're gonna have to create another state up here, which is gonna be const loading, and then we're gonna have set loading. We're gonna set it to use state, and we're gonna set it to false initially. So inside here of the use effect, inside here we have set the loading to true. We're gonna make an immediately invoked function expression here, so it's gonna run directly invoking itself. So we're gonna do like this async, and we do async so that we can have this async await to work. And we're gonna have let the response, we call it res, and we do await, and then we have axios.get. We're gonna have to install this soon. So we do https random word api.heroku app.com word number equals to 1. So basically what this is that we are storing in the result, we are just calling this API that I found, and we are targeting so that we just want one word back. And this is the first word you see when you load a page. So we're storing this word in this res variable here. So what we want to do now is we want to create after this one. We first need to actually we need to install Axios. So you head back here to the terminal, and then you write npm install Axios, and it's going to be placed inside your package.json here. So we're going to wait for that to finish. So perfect. That's perfect. We got it up and running now. We have the Axios, so we can do the call to the API. So below, we're going to do another variable called random word, and set it equal to the response.data 0, and that's basically gonna be the word that we get back from this response. And after that we want to set the loading to false, and to remove the loading that's going to be displayed later unless the word isn't shown. And then we want to do set word, and we want to set the word to the random word. And then we have another state that we're going to have to create up here, which is called const. And then we're going to have to set number of generated words. Sorry for that. And we're going to do like this. We're going to have a function to update it. Sorry, it should be a small letter here in the beginning. And we're going to have set number of generated words. Make sure that you spell this correctly. It was quite hard actually. So we set that equal to use state, and initially the number of generated words is going to be 0. So it's going to be 0, the number of generated words, and then in here we are going to set the number of generated words to the number of the previous number of generated words plus 1. So this is basically dependent on the previous version of the state. Then we're gonna have a little problem here. It's gonna complain later about some dependencies, so I'm gonna copy paste this one in here, which basically disables the next line. So that's good. We go into the app and we probably have some error messages now. Parsing error identifier loading has already been declared. Okay, let us see, we have loading, and we already set loading up here. So sorry, we're gonna remove that one. You don't need to set the loading twice. So that's it, we have the use effect hook. We are calling this API on load. And when a page loads, we set the random word to restaurant data 0. And the first item in the array, which is the word. Then we set the set loading to false. We set the word to random word, and then we set the number of generated words to the number of generated words plus 1. So, perfect. Now we want to display this word. So we're gonna go down here. We're gonna go inside here, and we're gonna do some conditional expression here. We're gonna set loading. If loading is true, this says, then we want to display a paragraph which says loading ... else if the status equals to loading. I'm gonna go through what status is in a little while. Then we want to set the paragraph to loading also ... And then we have another condition which says if the status is equal to error. If that's true, then we don't want to display a paragraph. We have to place it within these brackets. And inside here we are going to write error, and then we're going to take out the error from here. And this is going to come back from a use query later. I'm going to show you. Yes, and to finish it off, we want to, if all of these conditions are not true, we want to display the word simply, like so. And it's obviously not going to work yet. If we go back to, we see that Axios is not defined, and that is because we haven't imported Axios from Axios. So we have to do that. The status is not defined and the error is not defined. That's not weird. We're going to take care of that later. No worries. So to get use for this status and this error that we saw down here, we are going to have to use something called use query. And this one is going to come from React query. And for that, we're gonna import two. We're gonna install two packages. First one is gonna be npm install React query. So we're gonna run that one. And then we're also gonna install a second one, a second package that's gonna be called React query DevTools, and it's simply that you can manage it from your application window. Sorry, like this, npm install React query DevTools, like so. I'm not going to use the React query DevTools right now. I'm going to show you later how to use that. So what we're going to do now is that we are gonna use query simply. So we can place the use query. We can do it down here, and we just mark it out. We say use query, like so, and then we're gonna do some modern JavaScript where we destructure out status, the data, and the error, and then we are gonna use query, and inside here we're gonna have something called latest. You can write whatever you want here, and then the second thing we're gonna do here is fetch data, which is a function that we are gonna create inside utils. So I want you to go to the utils, and then I want you to create a new component here called game. It's not a component but a function file, and then you name it game function.js. You head into the file, and then we're gonna export it directly here by export const fetch data. It's gonna be an async expression again here. So we're gonna do an arrow function. We're gonna do a response res here again, const res, and we're gonna await fetch again to the same. I'm gonna copy paste it in this time to the same endpoint, like so, and then we are gonna store the data result. It's gonna be stored in await. The data is gonna come from response.json simply, like so, and it should be rest.json here. So the difference here from the first call is that we are calling, we want 1,000 words now, okay? So before on the load we just wanted 1 word, but now we're storing 1,000 words in this data simply. So if we head back to the game page now, we are gonna have from the fetch data, we're gonna have that stored in the data now. So we have all these words which we are gonna set generate randomly from data later. They are stored in the data. So let's see. We go back to our component and see use query is not defined, and that's because we haven't imported use query yet. So we have to import use query like this. Query from, I'm gonna let me see a second here. I'm gonna import use query from React query like so. And if we head back here to the page, we should see a little bit less errors. We still have an error with fetch data, and it's because we haven't imported it. So we have to import fetch data from, and then we're gonna go back another folder, and we're gonna go into utils, and we're gonna go into the game function. And let's see, it doesn't imported error, imported fetch data. Yes, we need to set some curly braces around this, like so. And then if we head back, we don't have that error yet, but we have some other errors. Expected an assignment or function call instead, so an expression. Gamepage.js line 19.9. Seems to be some error here with our use effect. Yes, it's not an immediately invoked function, so we're gonna have to do like this. And then you set these empty ones here afterwards, so that it immediately invokes itself. So now we see it up and running, and as you can see here, we have a random word up here, roaring. I'm gonna reload the page, and you see loading there for a short second, then we get the random word. The reason why I do this with use query later on, and only fetch like this in the beginning, is that I want to store it in the data so that it doesn't have to load the data every time it's supposed to be loaded, so that you don't see this loading all the time simply. So now we have that up and running, so it's perfectly. We have imported the fetch data function, and we have the use query here, which lets us get all the data and the status and the error. Also, we have an input handler here, which is reacting on the input, which we're gonna do more stuff with very soon. Yes, so we are gonna move inside the input handler now, so we can remove this console log here. And we have set the input to the target value, so the input is changing dynamically. Then we're gonna write let word text match and be equal to word dot substring. I'm gonna set 0 here, and then target value length. And this simply is gonna make sure that we can follow all the time when we're typing, that we're actually matching the word that we're typing in. So if we suddenly let's say that we want to write a hello, and then we write H, E, L, and D, then we're gonna use this to make this red border around later. So what we're gonna do now is to check here if we're gonna check if the typing starts. So I'm also gonna place a comment up here. We're gonna say handling input change and checking if game should start. So that's basically what we do in here. So we're gonna do if statement here. We're gonna do if, sorry, like this, if the number of generated words is equal to 1, which initially the number of generated words is 0, but once we once we load, then the generated number of words and the number of generated words is gonna be 1, because we have +1 here when it loads. And we're also gonna have and the e target value.length is equal to 1, and something that we're gonna create, it's not game over, and the timer is running. So we basically, the timer should not be running. So basically we do all these checks so that it only starts the game the first time we start typing, and not when the word resets and we have to write again. So what happens then is, if all these conditions are true, we are gonna set something we're gonna create soon, timer start. We're gonna run that function. We want the timer to start simply, we still want the clock to tick down. We're gonna set the placeholder to 0. We don't want to see any placeholder later. Then we're gonna make another if statement down here. We're gonna do if, and let us just create this timer start function here, so we don't get too confused over that and what it is. And simply what we don't want to do is, first off, we want to go up here and we want to create something called timer, const timer running, and then we want to set timer running also. And first, initially, when we start the game, it's gonna be false, so we do useState false, like so. And down here, when we call the timer start function, we can do this function. Let us do it just above here. We do the start timer function here, like so, and then we're gonna set inside this function we're gonna do a const timer start, and we're gonna set it equal to set timer running, and we're gonna set it to true simply. So we set the timer to true if all these conditions are met simply. So after that we're gonna create another if statement here. We're gonna do if event.target.value, and we're gonna take it to lowercase to make sure that it doesn't matter if it's if the input is of big letters or small letters simply. And then we're gonna set it equal to the word to lowercase. So simply, if the words are matching, the words that you and the word that you're typing with the word that you're supposed to type, then we're gonna set the score. That's also something. Let's check if we created that already. Yes, then we want to set the score to the previous state plus score plus 1. And for that we need to create the score, which we did here, sorry. We already created the score here, so we want to set the score to 1. And after that we want to call a function here that we were going to create that is called getRandomWord, like so. And this function getRandomWord we are actually going to call, let us see, we're going to call it, we call it on the bottom down here. So we create const getRandomWord, and we're going to make an async function, and we're going to do like this. We're going to be the new random word. The new random word is going to be the data, and the data is what we got back from the use query, which is simply 1,000 words. So what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna do an array. And we want simply, when you do an array, you put in different numbers, and that's gonna match different parts of the array simply, or different data inside the array. So what we're gonna do here is to randomize it. So we're gonna do math floor, and then we're gonna do math random, and then after math random, we're gonna time it times the data dot length, like so. So this is the new random word. We return the set word, and we set the new word to random word. So simply, when we have met the condition, we're gonna have a new word now to type in. So that's it. So let's head back to the browser. We see here that we have no game over, so that is what we're gonna have to create. So let's go up here, and we do another const, and we set game over, and then we have set game over, and we set this equal to use state false initially. So then we have that defined. We had yet another problem. We have set placeholder is not defined. So let's take a look at this. Set placeholder is not defined. Yes, that's because we had a capital letter down here. So you can type Control F, and then you write set place, and then you go down like this. And down inside this input handler, we have a big H, which we don't want to have, like this. So now we can head back, and let's see if this works, or if we have any errors. Cannot read the property length of undefined. Okay. Property length of undefined. Let us see. So data is undefined here. Let us see why that is. So guys, I looked up what error was there, and if we go to game functions, then inside here we see that we're not returning anything. So that was the mistake. So we're going to do return data here, and if we head back to the component now, or sorry, to the game, we're going to see here that once I type in here, we get a new word. Simply perfect like this, and we get no error anymore. So that's what we were missing. So perfect, we're gonna head back here to the game page, like so, and we are gonna head on here. Let's see where we were. Yes, so we have set the placeholder here. This is if on the first keystroke when we start typing, so we start the game, and this is if we are matching, then we are increasing the score. So basically also down here, instead of setting score to 0, now we can do some curly braces, and we can set the score to score, simply like this. So if we head back to the application now, and we write air strip, you see that the score increases here. We're gonna take care of the other stuff also very soon. So perfectly, we get a new random word that's also working. Then we want to set the number of generated words to the number of generated words plus 1. Long sentence here, not sentence but long name, so make sure that you spell it right. Then we're gonna clear the input, so we're gonna set it to nothing, which is gonna basically remove what we have written. Then we're gonna create a new const up here, and now we're working with the border styles. So we could actually just check how it works right now. So if we write here predestinated, you're gonna see that the word disappears and we don't have any placeholder there that we don't want to see. So we're gonna head up here, we're gonna set this border const. So we're gonna do const border style, set border style, and then we're gonna do use state, and we're gonna set it to initially to be nothing. And then we're gonna head down here, and we're gonna do some conditional stuff down here. So we want the border around the input area, right? So we're gonna do a style here, an inline style. We're gonna do like so. We're gonna set the border to border style, like this. So initially it's not gonna be anything because we set it to an empty string. But inside here, when we're matching the words, then we want to set the border style, and I'm gonna copy paste it in here. So 4 pixels solid, and we have this nice-ish color. Then we're gonna have an else statement, and we're gonna write inside this else statement another if statement, and we're gonna check if the target value to lowercase case is equal to the word text to match. If that's true, so simply if they are matching, to be clear here, the word text to match is the one we set up here. So it's basically we're gonna get the border color as long as we are starting the word correctly. So let's say that we have the hello example again. So let's say that we're writing HEL, then we're still gonna have this color, but if we write something else after that is incorrect, we're gonna get another border color, and that's what we are doing right now. That's why we wrote this up here also. So inside this if statement here, we're gonna set, I'm gonna copy paste this also from my previous document, and we're gonna have set the border style here. And then we're gonna have an else statement, and we're gonna set if that's not true. Basically, if we are not matching the correct word, or we are not beginning the word correctly, we're gonna set this reddish color instead. So we're gonna head back to the browser now. We're gonna check it out. So site, you see it's appearing. Site less, and now you see a green color when we did wrong. Right, sorry. But if we do wrong here, you see it turns red. So now we got that working also, which is perfect. So that's good. We have this random word here also. We're gonna set a comment here, just generate random word like this, like so. And then we are gonna have a function also here. We are gonna have to have a function where we reset the game also, but we're gonna create it already now. We are gonna have a const reset game, which is gonna be run on the bottom, of course. So we're gonna do an arrow function, and we're gonna set get random word. So we're gonna get a new random word. We're gonna set the input value to an empty string. We basically setting and restoring everything. We want to set the score to 0. We want to set the number of generated words to 1. We want to set the border style. Set border style to an empty string. We want to set the placeholder back to start typing to start the game. We want to set the set timer running. We want to set to false. And then we're gonna create something new here that we haven't done yet. So we're gonna go up here, and we're gonna create another constant, and this one is gonna be called timer element. Like this, we're gonna have a timer also. And then we're gonna have set, and it's gonna be a small letter here in the beginning, so be sure to set that. Set timer element, like so, and we want to set it to use state, and then we want to paste in here. Let me have a look so we do this all correctly. Yes, we want to set it initially to a string, like so, for our start time, and then down here at the bottom Make sure we place it at the right spot also. So obviously not in there, but we want it in here. Set it like so. So we go down here, and instead of this one here, we're gonna output timer element. So if we head back to the page, we see it down here now. So we are starting to make it a bit more dynamically, but we're gonna come to it soon. So here we are going to set that timer element, because later on we're gonna fix so that this time starts ticking down. So we're gonna do set timer element like so. We're gonna set it to initial value like this. We also gonna create the initial we're gonna create this function now, not function, sorry. We're gonna create this state now, but I'm gonna explain to you later what we are doing here actually. So we're gonna go up here, and we need to create this timer that I said a few seconds ago. So we do the timer, and then we have the set timer. We're gonna set the initial state here to equal use state, and then we're gonna create an array in here with 0, 0, 0, and we're also gonna have 60,000 here. So basically what we have here, so that I explain, is that we have the minutes here, we have the seconds here, and here we have the hundreds of seconds. This is the total amount of hundreds of seconds that there are in a minute, basically. So if we head to a calculator here, we do like this. So we have this here, we have 1 minute, right? On 1 minute it goes 60 seconds, and on 60 seconds you have 10,000 milliseconds. So you have a total of 60,000 milliseconds, and this is what we have here. We're gonna have it to compare to that value later when we calculate the time. So after that, we're gonna set the set game over to false, and we're gonna use this game over to create a modal later, and we're gonna set show modal to false also. So all of these are the reset functions. So then we got that running. We are done with this input handler here. So what we want to do now is that we are going to have to create an interval here. And this interval I have not created myself. It's something that Dan Abramov has created that I'm actually using. So I'm going to copy paste it in here. So I want you to pause the video for a second and type this in. It's basically problems with running set interval inside React. So Dan Abramov has created this use interval instead to be able to run an interval simply. And you can Google on use interval Dan Abramov, and then you will get an explanation of how this works more exactly. So then we have that, and then we have this one. We're gonna write conditionally running interval. So we're gonna do use interval, and we're gonna do a function in here, and inside this function we are gonna do run timer. So we're gonna start the timer simply, which is a function that we're gonna think we haven't created it yet, right? Let me see here. No, we haven't created run timer. But this, we're gonna do that in a second. That's a little bit more of the complicated part of this. So basically we're gonna set a condition here for if the timer is going to run or not. So we're gonna do timer running. If it's true, then we're gonna have a this is gonna run every 10 milliseconds. And if it's not true, then it's not gonna run simply. So it's not gonna run. So it's a conditional statement here. So if timer running should be with 1M. If timer running is true, then it's gonna run every 10 milliseconds. Otherwise, it's not gonna run. So now we come to the part where we have to create this run timer. So let's make room for it here. we're gonna place it up here actually, above the interval. So we're gonna do const run timer is equal to an arrow function, and we're gonna declare a variable here, but not assign a value. We're gonna say let updated time, and then we're gonna check and do an if statement here. If the timer is running, so that if that's true, then we're gonna do some maths here. So you remember this array that we did up here? Now is the time when we are gonna use it, simply. So if the timer is running, if that's true, then we're gonna do timer 3. That's the milliseconds. We're gonna decrease. We're going to decrease 10 milliseconds on it every time it runs, and the reason why we do 10 milliseconds here is because it runs every 10 milliseconds. So we have to, each time it's running, we need it to decrease as much time as it is between each of the rounds. Then we set minutes here, the 0. So we're gonna say 0, and it's gonna be equal to math.floor, and we're gonna have the timer here, and we're always gonna refer back to the milliseconds. So we're gonna have timer 3 divided by 1000, and then divided by 60. So basically this is gonna remove, it's immediately when the clock starts, it's gonna remove the 1 in the beginning. And then we have timer 1, which is the seconds, and we're gonna do math.floor. Here also we're gonna do the timer, and we're gonna place the milliseconds here, and again we're gonna take it divided by 1000, because this is seconds and it goes 1000 milliseconds on a second. So that lets us know how many seconds we are going to have, or how many seconds we are going to display simply. Then we have timer 2, which is the milliseconds, and we're gonna have math.floor, and we're gonna take again timer 3, and we're gonna do it minus timer 1, which is seconds, times 1000, and then we're also gonna divide it by 10, because we only want to display 2 numbers here. That's the reason. So after this, we're gonna go down here, and we're gonna assign a value to the updated time. So we're gonna have to, now we need to create a function just above here, and this, I'm gonna do a normal function here, and I'm gonna call it leading 0, and this is gonna take in the time, and we're gonna do like this: if the time is less or equal to 9, then we want time to be equal to 0 plus time. And then we return the time. So simply what we are doing here is that if the time is less or equal to 9, we want to have a leading 0. So back in our application it's not working now, but we can show in the working one. So these ones here, this one, and this one is the leading 0. So we don't want to show them if the number here is above 9 simply. So that's what we're doing here. So down here we're gonna do an output for this. So we're gonna do leading 0, and then we're gonna put in the timer and the first part in the array, which is the minutes, and then we're gonna take, so that's timer here is the time that we get in here. So since that's 1 in the beginning and then gonna get to 0 and to 0, we're always gonna see 2 numbers there. We're always gonna see a 0 in the beginning, sorry. So you take the leading 0, and then you add some dots here in between, and you make another plus sign, you take leading 0 again, the function. We place in timer 1, and again you have these dots in between. So we're basically writing these dots out now, and the zeros here. And they're gonna update each 10 milliseconds. And then we're gonna do a plus sign here again. We're gonna do leading 0, and we're gonna place in timer 2, like so. So this is perfect. And just to make sure, we can do a console log here later to see. Console log updated time, like so. And what we want to do now is we want to set the timer element to updated time. And I'm just going to make sure that we have actually created this one. Have we done that? Set timer element? Yes. So now we are dynamically outputting this all the time. So let's head back now and see what we need to fix. Set show modal is not defined. Okay, Control F, set show modal is not defined. Okay, we haven't made it up here. So we're just gonna head up here and we're gonna create another const. And we're gonna do show modal, and then we're gonna do set show modal. And initially it's gonna be false, like so. So let's see what's going on here. So now we have it up and running, and you see, time is working, game is up and running, and we write woodbox and so on. It's working. Of course, the reset button is not working yet, but we're gonna fix that later, like so. So we have pretty much up and running at the moment. Now we head down to activate this reset button. We want to set an attribute on it here. We want to set reset game. So when you click it, the game should reset simply. So we output the score here. We reset the game. Here we have the timer element displayed, the borders working, the input is listening on the input change here in the input, and then we are displaying this status or error or a word conditionally up here. So let's head back to the application, and we write Mayo, so bacteria, and it's good if I can spell correctly, mycobacteria, and then okay, so we got an issue here. When we reset the game, it should not look like this. So let's head it back here and see what's going on. Yes, we have set the set timer element twice here, and that's not what we're supposed to do. This should not be element, it should be set timer. So let's try it again. And now it's working. So basically you have the game up and running now. So the next thing we're gonna do, guys, is to create this modal that is gonna pop up when we are when the game is over, simply. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna be still in this game page component. We are gonna have some conditional here. So let's head below game wrapper here, and we're gonna do like so, show modal with a big letter there, and if that's true, then we will want to display a div with the class name of game over modal, and inside this one we're going to have another div with the class name of oh, sorry, not like this, with the class name of modal content container, like so. And in there we're gonna have an h2 which says game over, and then below the h2 we're gonna have a paragraph that says final score equal to score, should be inside the curly braces, of course, like so. Save just to format it. we can't save it yet, sorry. So we have this final score below. Then below that we have a button. Button with the class name of play again. Like this. And this is going to have an on-click. And on-click we're going to call the reset game. So it's the same as the button in our game, simply. Inside here we're going to write play again. Like so. And okay, then we have everything of this. So if, and that was if the show model is true. If it's not true, we're gonna do null here. So it's still up and running. And we are gonna go into the game page.styles.css. So we're gonna make it easy for us, and we're gonna place the styling for the game over modal here. So we're gonna do game over modal. And we're gonna take in position absolute. It should be top 0, left 0. So we basically want it to cover the entire screen. That's what we're doing here. And then we're doing height of 100%. Then we do a C index 1000. The background color RGBA 00009, like so. So we have this a little bit of transparent color, simply. And then inside still we have this modal content container. And we're gonna set display flex on it. We're gonna justify the content center, so we're centralizing it. We're gonna align item center. We are gonna set height of 100%. We're gonna set a width of 100%. We're gonna set flex. We're gonna set flex direction to column. And we're also gonna style the H2 inside here, and it's gonna have a color of white. Sorry, like so. We're gonna have a font size of 4 rem. We're gonna have a margin bottom of 1 rem, like so. And then beneath that we're gonna have a paragraph, and we're gonna set the color to black. And the margin bottom is gonna be 2 rem, and we're gonna have a background color here, which I'm gonna copy in. It's the background, the yellowish color from previously. So we're gonna copy in this like that, not with the background color again here. And then we're gonna have padding also here of 1 rem, top and bottom, and then we're gonna have a left and right. We're gonna have 2 rem. It's usually like how we style. This is not a button, but it's gonna look like a button. But how you style inputs and buttons, you make more space on the sides than you do on the top and the bottom. We're gonna have a border radius of 2 rem, and then we're gonna target display again. And this is the button, so it has some more styles. We're gonna have it's the same actually as from the previous button. So we're gonna copy paste in this here, and we're also gonna have this one, so we have a border in the beginning also. So that's basically it, and that's our game over screen, and we have already rendered it conditionally here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna head back here. I'm gonna type something in and let the time start, and I'm gonna fast forward the video so that we can see the game over screen. Actually, I did realize that we don't have to fast forward anything. We can just go and make it very simple for us. And so we go to the show modal and we just type through here instead. And then the modal should show like this. And if you click, it disappears. So make sure that you turn this back again to false, like this. So perfect. We're actually pretty much done with the game. So what we're gonna do now is to go into the pages, and we're gonna create the landing page. So we're gonna name this landing page, and we inside landing page we're gonna make component, and that is called landingpage.js. Sorry, it's gonna be called landingpage.js, and then we're gonna have the stylings, which are gonna be landingpage.styles.scss, like this. And once again, we're gonna do the shortcut RASFE and click N. It's struggling. Life is not easy. Like so. So this is perfect. We're gonna import the styles directly. So we're gonna do like this. And then inside this landing page component, we are gonna have a class name here on the surrounding element, and it's gonna be landing page wrapper. And inside landing page wrapper, we're gonna have another div, and it's gonna be called game information container, like so. Make sure. Seems to be struggling for me, so I just make a normal div like this, and then I set class name here to game information container. And then inside game information container, we're gonna have a h1 which says welcome to speed typer, like so. And now we need to import and install something that we're gonna use very soon, and it's called the React Router DOM. It's simply so that we can navigate between our pages. So if you haven't used React Router DOM before, it's also an npm package. So you can head in here, and you're gonna see how you install it here. And also there are separate pages like this one here, where you can get all the information of the different components. But we are gonna run this command npm install React Router DOM. So let's head down here and run npm install with the I is enough, React Router DOM, like so. And we're gonna let it install, and it's gonna be stored in our dependencies. And now we actually need to head back to our app.js, which we haven't been in for a while. So inside here, we're gonna do an import. We're gonna import something from React Router DOM, and this is gonna be the browser router, and it's basically this that is gonna surround our application and make it possible for us to navigate simply. And we're gonna import it as router, so we rename it to router, and then we're gonna have a switch imported here also, and then we're gonna have the routes, the different route to the different pages. So what we want to do here now is to actually wrap everything here inside the router like this. Let me see. And we're gonna take this router here, and we're gonna copy it, paste it down here, and then around this application we want to place the switch like this. Sorry, the switch should be inside, of course. It should be here, so we have to have the switch inside here. So I'm gonna remove this one like this, and now we have we are not gonna write the game page here anymore like this. Instead we are gonna do some routes here. So what we're gonna do here is, first we're gonna create a route here with the exact path to just slash. So this is basically the home page. So when we are on the home page, we want to render the component landing page, which we haven't imported yet. So we're gonna close this one here like this, and now we need to import landing page from it's just one dot like this. We go into components, we go into pages, we go into landing page, and we go into landing page again. So now we have a route to the landing page. So if we go back to the game again, here we can close this one out. Yes, so you see we are on the landing page, and so it just says welcome to SpeedTyper, and that's all we see now. Obviously we want to be able to render our other page also, so we're gonna make another route here, and this route also with the exact path should be to /game, and then we have the component, and it should be equal to game page, like so. So now we have our two pages. I know that I told earlier about this React Query DevTools, but it's actually nothing that we need in this particular project, so we're gonna skip it for now. And what I want you to do now, when we have this set up here, is that I want you to go back to your pages and the landing page, and then inside this landing page here now, we are gonna make a button here, and it's gonna be something else that we need to import from React Routed DOM. And what we want to import here is the link element. And this one lets us simply navigate between the pages. So we're gonna create a link here, and don't seem like it's want to auto finish for me. I'm gonna create the link here, and inside the link we're gonna have a paragraph like so, and we're gonna right click to play like this, and we're gonna set the class name here and make it equal to game information container link, and the link should go to /game. So this is just a landing page. When you click this, click to play, we're gonna get forwarded to the game page simply. So now we make some styling here. So let's head into the landing page styles.css. So first we have the landing page wrapper, like so. We're gonna give it a height of 100 VH, and we're gonna give it a width of 100 viewport width. We're gonna set display flex to center because we want to center everything. So we're gonna have justify content center, align item center, and we're gonna have we are gonna use the image now. So along with the linear gradient here. So I'm just gonna copy it in. Then we're gonna have to change the path here. So you have to refer to where the image is in the project. So I'm gonna remove this, but keep the linear gradient here. I'm gonna do like this. Back again, and here we have the assets, we have the images. Make sure that you don't get these double ones here. And after the images, we want to have the main background. So that's it. And then we want to set background position center to center the image. We want the image to cover page. We want the background to not repeat itself, so we're going to say no repeat here. Repeat. So if we head back to the page here and we remove this game here, this is what we have at the moment. So we have this nice overlay and this nice background picture. So after that we're gonna do the game information container, and we're gonna set the background color here, also to be a bit RGBA, a dark colored color that has some transparency or opacity on it. And then we set the padding to 2 RAM and 4 RAM. Display flex, we say justify content center, align center, And then we have flex direction column. Then we have the border radius and set it to 4 rem. And then we have some box shadows here that I'm gonna copy paste in, so you can just pause the video and take a look here and write them down. But I'm gonna head on now. So we write H1 here, and this is the main title of the page. So we have a font size here of 4 rem. We have a color of white. We have a background here and some text shadow that I'm gonna copy in here. So these styles you can also pause and write. I'm gonna make give it some nice color, our heading for our page. And then we want to have a margin bottom of 2 rem. So this is what we see right now. We are gonna centralize this soon. We're gonna see. Let me see here. It should be centralized. Let me see, center. Like this, sorry. So we have the text align center here. Perfect. So then we go into the next component, which is the game information. And actually we have game information container, and now we have links. So actually we can just do like this. We can make an ampersand, I think it's called in English. And then we do like this. And we can just start writing our styles here. So text decoration, because it's a link now, we don't want any text decoration. We want the border radius 2 rem. We want some padding here, 1.6 rem and 3.2 rem. We want it to have the font family correctly. We want the outline. I copied the font family in there. So just to write it down, outline of 0, border of none, and then we want to set the cursor to pointer. Then we want this nice purplish color again on the on this link. Sorry for that. Color is gonna be white. We want to have a font weight that's bold, and we want to have font size of 1.2 rem. And a letter spacing of 0.2 rem. So I basically copied these styles from the bottom. And inside we have this paragraph also. And just to make sure that the color really stays white, we set white on that one also. So we head back to the page, and as you can see, we have this nice looking page here, this landing screen. Something is wrong with the bottom, because it should be purple. So let's see what we have done incorrectly here. And obviously this is the mistake here. We have no link here. So let's head back and you see it. And if we click it, we get to the game page. So that's pretty much it, guys. There's only one last thing that we're gonna do. And it's to make some smooth transitions between the pages. So to do that, we're gonna head back to the app.js. And we are gonna use something called Framer Motion. So what we're gonna do is to install this package, Framer Motion. So we're gonna write down here, npm install. We just do Framer Motion. And now we're gonna have to import here we're gonna have to import animate presence from Framer Motion. So in import animate presence. See, so I spell it correctly, from Framer Motion, like so. And that's perfect. That's all we need there. Then around our application, we're gonna have surround it with something called animate presence that we get from Framer Motion, and that we the structure out up here. So we're going to surround our application with it. And now we're going to have to move into our utilities again. And we're going to create some stuff in here. So we're going to call this one, in our utilities, we're going to call this one transitions.js. And we're gonna export to constant here called page transition, and we're gonna set it equal to in. We're gonna have an opacity of 1. This is simply the most basic styles you can apply to page transitions with Framer Motion. You're gonna have an out, and you're gonna have an opacity of 0, like so. Then we're gonna have another one that's gonna be called export cons sign out transition. Like so. And then we're gonna do in here, and we're gonna do an opacity. I'm actually not 100% sure if I used this in the project. We will see if it's necessary or not. But anyway, we're gonna do opacity of 1 and a Y of 5. And then we're gonna have out, and we set an opacity of 0. And if you want to read more about Framer Motion, you can always either go to their sites or you can go to their npm package, and then you can go to the documentation about it that you can see down here. So that's it for that. We close that down, and it seems like we have some error here. Export cons sign out transition equals to, yes, that's what we're missing. So let's see. We had some issue there. We had attempted import animate presence is not exported from Framer Motion. Okay. So sorry guys, I found the mistake there. I think it was, or I don't think it was. It was spelling typo here on animate presence that made us not be able to do what we wanted to do. So we're gonna head back to our game component here now. And what we want to do in here is that in the top of this component we're gonna import something from Framer Motion, and it's gonna be something called motion. So we're gonna import motion from Framer Motion, and this basically gives us the ability to set a surrounding element on this component that is gonna make it able for the transition to happen when we switch pages. So what we want to do here is that we, instead of doing this, setting this to a div, we're gonna do motion.div instead, and here we're going to set some properties. We're going to have exit, it should be out, and you remember we named all these in our utilities and in the transitions, so that's what they are going to reference. Then we have animate, that's going to be in, and then we have an initial that is going to be out, and the variants that we want to use are the page transition that we are gonna get from our utils here. So if you go here, you see page transition, so we obviously need to import it. So if we head up to the top, we're gonna import page transition from utils transitions, like so. And it seems like we have some error here on the bottom, and it's because we haven't named this motion div also. So let's head back to the browser and see if it's not working yet. So it seems like I found a mistake, guys. Here we have this variant here that should be variants, of course, so that's why it didn't work. So let's head back now and see if we can get it working. And there you see the nice smooth transition there between the pages. So guys, I did notice that we have a minor mistake in our project actually. if we take the game up here and we start typing, the game time is gonna run. But when it reaches 0, we have an issue. I'm gonna fast forward the video so that we can see what happens. So the time is about to run out now, and we will see what happens here. Okay, so as you see, the time didn't stop and we don't see this modal appearing. So this is what we have to fix. We can click reset game here first, and then we take away this screen. So what we have to do is when the time reaches 0 simply, then we have to reset some stuff. So we are in here in the runtimer function. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do another if statement, and we're going to say if the timer element is equal to 000000 when the time has run out simply, then we want to set the timer element just to make sure. We want to set it to 00000000, and also we want to set the game over to true, right? We want to set the show modal to true so that we show the modal. We also want to set the timer running to false so that we stop the loop from running simply. So we go back to the game like this, and then we start typing here again. I'm gonna fast forward the video and we're gonna see what happens. So as you can see, it worked. We have this nice looking game over screen. You see the final score here. Now we didn't type anything, so we don't see any score. And then we have this play again button. So if we click that, we can start the game over again like this. Perfect. Now it's working. So guys, that was pretty much it. I did some small changes in the end. I changed our homepage wrapper to game page wrapper with a small letter in the beginning to stay more consistent. I also did the same change over in our style sheet where you now can see game page wrapper. If you want to make this project more responsive, you could head over to my GitHub page. You will find it in the description down below. And then at the bottom of my styling sheets, you will find some media queries, both in game page styles and in landing page. And you can just copy paste those into your project and it will become more responsive. If you liked this video, please give it a like and please subscribe to my channel. You can also leave some comments down below on what you want to learn more about in the future. And if something was unclear in this video, you can also leave a comment and I will do my best to answer your questions. So once again, thank you very much and I hope to see you again in the future.